Hey guys, it's Perceive Me here. Today we're gonna have something a bit different than just the normal trials or survival match that you normally see. I kind of wanted to shift some of my content onto more of the social aspect of Destiny because I think there's more to cover there. And I also believe that aside from the basics like getting better at aiming, if you want to improve and take your skill to the next level, it's almost better to improve your knowledge and approach to gaming in general when you play and try to adapt the mindset of someone who plays at a high level consistently because that's what's really going to lead you to better decision making down the line. Because if you just have good aim and you happen to be good at Destiny, as soon as you switch to a game like Apex Legends, a battle royale, and you've never played it before, you wouldn't even know which legend to pick or where to even drop on the map. What's going to help you more is the map knowledge and mindset of someone who can consistently play well. So I want to have a focus on transferable skills that you can apply to different games or a different medium. So I want to introduce the guest on the channel today. I think there's an argument to be made that he's one of the best skirmish players in Destiny in terms of consistency and the level he played at while Destiny 1 was still Bungie's main live service game and when the skirmish playlist was still relatively active. So without further ado, StainlessManiac, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, how's it going? Thanks for having
All
me.
right, not a problem. So guys, if you're new to Destiny or if you're returning for a big expansion, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. No, I'm just kidding. But this will be worth your time, guys. So there's a lot to unpack because everyone experiences Destiny differently. Some people may play a long time, some people may come and go because it's not really their cup of tea, and some people will only play during a certain meta, and if another player joins Destiny later down the line, it may be a completely different sandbox. So I think it's best to start at the beginning. So Stain, how did you first get into Destiny and like what went into you just getting the game?
It was I used to play like a lot of Halo, and I wouldn't say I played Halo as much as I played Destiny, but because it was Bungie's new game, I just it grabbed interest. I grabbed interest and decided to buy it.
Yeah.
Um, mhm.
And Destiny, from my understanding, it was a continuation of basically what they started at Halo Reach, because Halo Reach was their last Halo title, and Destiny was supposed to be the next project that they had going on after.
Right, like you said, like continuation, and it had like similarities with the abilities and stuff like that, like the jetpack.
Yeah, because in Halo Reach, it was the first time we saw the abilities be attached to the player itself, like jetpacks and the evade and armor lock, instead of it just being a pickup on the map.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you saying you really didn't like Destiny that much at first, because there wasn't like that much in it initially.
Right. It was just like it was early, I think. It was the new game. They didn't have a lot going on other than the campaign. The campaign was like super short,
Yeah,
and then they had the PvP.
yeah, and it wasn't really until the Destiny 1 House of Wolves expansion where they added some more depth and like a better gameplay loop. And they also introduced Trials of Osiris in the Destiny 1 at that time as well. And guys, if you're listening, understand too, a lot of the replay value of a first-person shooter like Destiny is the PvP and the state that the sandbox is in. So Stain, when you think about the state that Destiny 1 ended at after the Rise of Iron expansion, and you fast forward to the launch of Destiny 2, what did you think of the state Bungie launched Destiny 2 in?
Well, they just reverted everything they did, everything that they worked for in D1 towards the end. It was just erased, and they went back to square one.
Yeah. And at launch, Destiny 2 PvP was 4v4, so 4 players on each team, but it also had a relatively slower movement than D1, and the time to kill on weapons was longer. They had a double primary weapon system, and the Arc, Solar, and Void subclasses only had 2 different diamond nodes you could choose from, and it wasn't until the Forsaken expansion where they added a third. And there was literally only 2 PvP playlists at the time, quick play and competitive. I don't even know if you remember that far, but
Yeah, now that you bring it up, yeah.
yeah. So understandably, Destiny 2 at launch wasn't really well received, especially from like most D1 players, and it was
Yeah.
relatively bare bones.
Right. That
And
shit was dry.
yeah, and Destiny 2 didn't have all the quality of life changes it had going into the Witch Queen expansion. So there was a brief period of time where Destiny 1 was a more complete game than Destiny 2. It literally just had more in it. And I'd say
Right.
that that was the case up until the Warmind and Forsaken Destiny 2 expansions.
Right.
Yeah, and a big reason I wanted to talk with you was I wanted to hear your insight on the Skirmish PvP playlist in Destiny 1 and kind of the foundation of the PvP scene in Destiny because like Skirmish was around before Trials was. And I
Right.
really think that D1 Skirmish was the most competitive version of Destiny PvP as a playlist. Yeah, there were tournaments and custom matches, but it wasn't an actual playlist. And
Right.
I also think there was a lot of strategy that went into playing it at a high level.
Right.
Yeah, so Skirmish was 3 versus 3, so 3 people on each team. And it was like Clash, but with revives.
Right.
And the first team to get a score of 5,500 would win. 5,500 would win. A standard kill would give 100 points, and you get a bit more for headshots, assists, super kills, 50 points for a revive, and things like that. And I've
Heavy
heard you,
kills.
yeah, I heard heavy kills too. So I've heard you kind of say, Stain, when it came to the scoring system, there was still some room for improvement in terms of how heavily certain actions were weighted. And you could probably add on to that.
So yeah, I just elaborate. So the scoring was just like a big issue because like if like let's say the score is 0-0 and whoever gets the first kill, like the first kill, it will be I think you get 125
Like for
for
the first initial first blood.
right, right. And then let's say you tie the score again and then let's say 750 to 750 and then if you kill the guy that's placed with the most kills, then you automatically get like more points for that kill.
Yeah. So you benefit from killing the guy in the lead, the player
Right.
in the match who had the most points at the time.
S- So the guy who's slain, if you kill him, then you get more points.
Yeah, and I can also think back to some in-game scenarios where your team may need 50 points to win the match, and if you're a Titan, you could justify using a Ward of Dawn bubble on a revive instead of going for a kill and win like that. Um,
Right.
so there's
I
little
think
situations. Yeah.
right. I think you did that a couple times when we used to play.
Yeah. But
But like everything is important though. Like in that playlist, like the revives is important because everything adds up towards the end because it's the way that it was designed with all the points and everything is gonna add up.
yeah, so
And
you
then
kind of had to factor it in.
right, and then the assist, everything you do, you're getting rewarded, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. So fundamentally, what the engagements would turn into was kind of this tug of war between keeping your teammates alive and preventing the other team from getting revives, and it was extremely fun. But what made Skirmish distinctly different from Trials of Osiris was that it wasn't a round-based game mode. Like in Trials, if you get 3 kills, wipe a team, the round ends. Another 3 kills, the round ends. And yeah, Trials, each life is valuable, but the flow of combat is very fragmented. Where in Skirmish, there's a lot more depth because the flow of combat is continuous.
Right, just fluid.
And yeah, and if you get 3 kills in a skirmish match, it wouldn't just end. You'd be setting up around a different part of the map where the enemy team spawns and making sure you space out your team's supers so you don't waste them all in a single engagement. And like the pace of combat over the course of a skirmish match would change a lot based off if you had the lead or if you were playing from behind. And you're almost challenged as a player and in your decision making on how you handle different circumstances over the course of a long-term match. And I don't think a round-based format really captures that as well. So, Stan, when you think back to Skirmish, what made it fun for you, or why do you think you didn't just play it once or twice and that was it?
Well, I mean, when you play it and and you're just slaying and it's just the flow of the game, it's just you just keep going. And then
Yeah,
like if you compare it with survival and how it's like round based and then you have a limited amount of what is it, deaths per round, it just
yeah,
slows like the gameplay down. And so like the difference with skirmish is just like you can slay and keep moving and rotating. If you have a teammate or team or whatever, you can keep going at the pace that you want.
yeah. And it's almost more engaging in a lot of ways.
Right. And then they added I think well when first PvP came out, when I first played it D1, I think you spawned with green, you know,
Yep.
and it towards like halfway uh through its lifespan, they added the crates. So that made it a bit more competitive because now you have to what do you call it? Memorize the timer. When you pull it, I think it's every minute or so. So if you control the green, then you'll be slaying more because you'll have like a shot of your fusion or sniper.
Yeah. So definitely a different special ammo economy as well.
Right.
And another thing too, I want to add when it comes to it being like more engaging is I think playing to improve and playing for the love of the game or solely to win is something you see a lot less of in PvP. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
really hear people say like I'm playing to get better or I'm playing to build on what I already know. Because I do think there's a certain level of mastery that comes from the strategic side of Destiny and the build crafting. But when it
Right.
comes to streaming and platforms like Twitch, and you think about the monetization of viewership and how streamers grow, you're kind of incentivized to value your audience, your attention, and your viewership over your pursuits and end-game um, triumphs. And it becomes a show at the point when you start putting like entertainment value over the strategy in a PvP mode. And there's nothing wrong with that. People can play how they want. But I do think it's important to notice the transition and shift in values that streaming and monetization have on the PvP scene. Like, have you noticed any of that?
Well, when you stream or anybody streams, it's just mainly for entertainment. You know, you want to
Yeah.
entertain your audience or whatever. And I mean, but also like you play a lot, so you know what you're doing, and every time you're playing, you're also gonna improve.
Yeah. And I'm going to pose this question. So let's say, for instance, if we were trying to put together a successful Destiny tournament, it used to be you get the best players you could find, they join the tournament, and the best team would win. But now you could make the argument that you should find the people with the biggest audience and the most reach because more people would see your tournament. So it brings up the question like, how do you measure success as a player? Because Stain made a name for himself by playing thousands of people, but someone else could have the same reach playing 100 people with 1,000 viewers. And it's kind of this double-edged sword because it kind of makes you question which method's more valuable, but also which one would make you a better player in the long run.
Right. Well, I mean, if if you're streaming, you obviously want to be successful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So you gonna do what you want to do, what you have to do to entertain your audience. And like for me, I just play, just to get better, and I knew the people that I'll play against because it'll be like the same teams, and then you'll realize who's good, who's not,
yeah.
and then
That's a
you just match so many teams.
yeah, that's a good point too. I would say the PvP scene at the start of D1, it wasn't really that big initially
Yeah, it started
in its
growing
growth
like
sense.
I'm saying I would say like a year after.
Yeah. Now, I also want to cover too, when you talk about playing and getting better, like I think there's a misconception when people talk about being the best at something. Like if
Hmm.
someone says, I'm the best at XYZ, it's almost as if they're dealing in absolutes. And this kind
Right.
of
I don't think
implies,
I've ever said that. Uh-huh.
yeah, no, never. And it kind of implies like they don't need to get better or improve anymore. And
Right.
for example, if I say I'm the best at using a fusion rifle, and someone I'm playing against charges their fusion and kills me, they were the better fusion user in that engagement. So it's
Right at that
almost better
moment.
to, yeah, it's almost better to gauge yourself on how consistent your decision making is over time, rather than
Right.
just saying I'm the best or worst at something, and that's the end all be all.
Yeah, well, consistency is the key, It's not like, oh, you can pop off one game and then you just like trash three, four
Yeah,
games. It's just about being consistent and stuff like that. It's not even about the KDA or KD or anything. People play for that. So for like in D2, they play for that KD, believe it or not.
yeah,
But that doesn't do anything. It doesn't win you the game. It makes you play like more passive, and if you're
yeah,
playing for the KD, you're not really making any plays.
yeah. You may miss out on some opportunities.
Yeah.
And now, Stain, you're a very consistent player, but what impressed me the most about the mindset you play with is how you handle loss. Because
Right.
most people, when they lose, they get frustrated, they get tilted, and it kind of throws off their game. But
Right.
as a teammate, the few times we have lost, we find what
Hmm.
went wrong, and it's relatively constructive.
Right. Yeah, so you just try to figure out like what you can improve on. If you need to team shot some more, watch some angles, but you gotta let it be known, like not like of course during the game also, but you don't see it after the game. Once you lose, then you're like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that.
Yeah,
But when we will lose, I'll say, oh, yo, we can run it again. But
yeah,
people like they will stop queuing, and so then we'll match another team.
yeah. And if you're listening, think about that for a second. I could not find anyone who has won more skirmish matches than Stain. He's won so much that over the course of time, if you add up the times he has lost, it's more than most people have even played. Like, let that sink in. Stain's won so many skirmish matches that he's lost more than most people have played total. Forget winning as much as Stain. Most people haven't even caught up with the times he's lost and improved his game that way. And people don't talk about that. Like, people will get upset when they lose, but that's just part of how big the skill gap really is. Not only statistically, but also where most people are in their current approach versus a winner's mindset.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
and then also like video games, I mean, you're gonna lose, but what you want to think of is you want to win more than you lose, you know? Because losing is gonna happen. You can't avoid it.
yeah,
You're gonna lose some games, but it's just how you bounce back and stuff like that. And if you've learned from anything from those losses,
yeah,
you gotta improve in a way.
yeah. I've always said the only mistake is when you don't learn from.
Right.
Yeah, and I really want my audience and the people listening to kind of question their own values as a PvP player, not only in how they approach the Crucible, but also how they interact with other opponents and consistent players. And did you have anything else you wanted to add, Stain?
I mean, these people gotta be, less toxic and just play the game.
Yeah,
The player is not it's not the player's fault. I mean, he doesn't make the game, he plays the game.
yeah, 100% agreed. But that's all I have time for today, guys. Stain, thanks for sharing your insight with us. It's been a pleasure as always. Guys, follow me on
For
Twitch,
sure.
twitch.tv/perceive me. I'll put a link to that and timestamps in the description. And guys, if you learned something or took something away from this discussion, let me know in the comments. And if you like Skirmish or remember playing it, let me know your experience. And guys, I really just wanted to give you something to think about to improve and help you. So thanks, guys. Later.